Today, this white, undamaged, highly taped box arrived carrying my backer rewards for the Flames of Freedom Kickstarter, which you might think of as being associated with Grim and Perilous Studios or with Andrews McMeel Universal Publishing or with Zweihander, all of which would more or less be true. So, because we're looking at a box, we know what comes next. The box was delivered through DHL and another forwarding service, and so has arrived unblemished with a relatively short transit time. There was a long preparatory period where I received the notification that my shipment was ready close to 2 weeks before it was actually sent anywhere. Then, once in motion, the package began to travel faster than its notifications, and this was delivered today in the morning, which is Monday, and I'm still receiving the notification that it will be delivered by close of business tomorrow. So that's fine. It's the opposite which bothers people, right? So the books are probably in pretty good condition. The cardboard of the box is a little on the thin side, and the tape is where it needs to be, but it's pretty tough tape. And as I said, the box, while it has seen some, I guess, dirty vans, it hasn't been dropped or used as a doorstop or used to keep the elevator door open or any of those things. And this section that we're looking at here is the most egregious point of damage in the entire box. All right, so let's open it up and see what's inside. All right, skipping over the cutting of the tape, we have the raising of the lid, and inside, I've already removed the packing slip, but this is as far as we have gone. Now, one thing that was very pleasant this time out with this delivery via DHL was that I did not have to navigate the labyrinthine process of dealing with customs. Instead, DHL just delivered it. The reason why they just delivered it is because every item was listed as being associated with the book. So it's either a book or a book accessory. So it doesn't trigger any particular need for it to be inspected for someone to see if it's something that it isn't. So, as a suggestion for others out there who are shipping game-related products to South Korea, unless it's a video game or a board game which has components and the like, which could be manufactured here or could rely on local programming talent, it is more appropriate to select book as what your object is rather than game, because the hurdles that your recipient will have to go through in order to get their product and the tax that they'll have to pay on it far exceed the joy perhaps in receiving the package. So this is 100% joy because I didn't have to go through any of those hoops, because I got sent a book and book accessories, and it came through customs without fuss and bother. All right, so on top we have an envelope. And beneath the envelope, I'm sure people have already noticed, there is a cloth map. It's pretty cool. It's all sealed away, and so this is a map of our colonial environment. All right, we can zoom in here and we can see Delaware and Virginia and Maryland. All right, I think I will probably be leaving this in the packaging for now. I'm still curious about what's in here. Me too, but let's take a look under this protective piece of cardboard, and there is our first look at the main event, right? Flames of Freedom from Grim and Perilous, powered by Zweihander. The cover pretty much tells the tale. This is an alternate history set during the period of the Revolutionary War, where that part of the North American continent that would, in our world, become the United States, rebelled against Britain. But in this version, the supernatural is real. Now, this game got its start in connection to an earlier game using the 12 degrees system, which was called Colonial Gothic. But it has taken on its own shape as well. And so, with this supernatural element to the revolution, and with similar attitudes to the supernatural that we could find in our world, that is, some people believe it, some people believe it too much, and of course, some people have to fight it. As usual, being a book powered by Zweihander, it is immense and very heavy. Wrapped up securely in shrink wrap, we can see, looking at the pages, that they are marked for easy access. And this particular iteration of the Zweihander rules carries forward the commitment from the company to make the games as easy to use as possible. So this pays attention to the needs of readers who are colorblind, who are dealing with dyslexia, and who expect a book to have some kind of coherent organization. All of these things have received very special attention so that the book is as easy to use as possible for as many people as possible. So the back cover reveals a lot of what we've just talked about already. It's the dawn of the Revolutionary War of 1776, but this war is magical. Also in the box, an advertisement. Hooray! Below the advertisement, the screen. Hard and thick and protected by bubble wrap. The exterior of the screen brings out a lot of the character art, which lurks inside the pages of Flames of Freedom, giving us an idea of the diverse range of occupations and types of people that might be caught up in this struggle of regular folk versus the supernatural, trying to carve out a future for themselves in this clash of cultures, outlooks, and societies. The other two panels of this 4-panel screen give us a scene to help us visualize what this game is about. Struggle at the heart of the idea, the main idea of Flames of Freedom. Now, who's to say how your particular game will evolve from this backdrop or from situations like these? But the notion is one of an intense fight against a variety of forces, not the least of which is nature and the nature of humanity itself. And very few of these obstacles seem particularly kind. Moving from left to right, this low-rise 4-panel screen gives us a good cross-section of material from the game. Directly in front of you are peril and condition tracks and combat conditions, so these seem to be quite well placed above the reactions and some environmental condition modifiers. Off to your right, we have action types, movement actions, attack actions, special actions, and rough and tumble. And off to your left, we have the coin pool. We'll talk about that in a moment. And difficulty ratings and the list of skills. The screen is quite thick. It has a matte finish. Good quality binding throughout. Special attention paid to the hinging. And the font is quite easy to read, even from a fair distance away. So I'm sitting just under a meter away from the screen and can read all of the text from top to bottom of the screen. So that's all right. So is it time to look in this envelope? No. Let's open the book. Free of its shrink wrap, we can see that the cover is a matte finish, somewhat velvety in feel, and the book is, of course, fully protected. All of its corners quite sharp, except for this one down here, but this seems to be the normal sort of ding that comes along during the actual production process. It did not match up with that not very terrible, not very horrifying ding on the outside package of the box. That was this corner. So, it's all right. The book has a blood red ribbon, which we'll get to in a moment. Now, the end papers are our map. Okay. And of course, my eye is immediately drawn to where I'm from. But I suppose a lot of the action of this game will be prepared for other zones of more fame. And of course, somewhere near to where the 13 colonies actually were. But one thing that we should direct our attention to, because this is a Zweihander product, and since the second wave of Zweihander books, we have a lay-flat binding. All right, so notice how well-behaved the pages are. So if I wanted to leave it open to this page, for whatever reason, I could. Yay. The Flames of Freedom Core Rulebook. Here is the full image of the cover in sepia. It's quite nice. Hard to imagine what horrors that group of people might have arrayed themselves against. Right? We have a full credits page, giving credit where credit is due. All kinds of interesting things in here. We have quite a few developers, quite a large group of people got involved in deciding what this game was going to be. And then we have accessibility, cultural, and safety consultants. Then we have additional contributions. We have our editors, our line editors, and our actual editors, and our proofreader. It's very nice to see names set out this way right up front, because if there's still a weakness in the production side of role-playing games, it's in this area. We have our art directors, graphic designers, and we have art and cartography credits given to those people, as well as the user experience consultant. Very nice. But that's not all. The credits continue all the way up here with our production editor and manager, and then the brand manager and all sorts of things, getting into the sales side. So if you wanted to be able to, for some reason, contact a role-playing game company and try to work on something, how would you go about that? Well, this makes it a whole lot easier, doesn't it? The original game, Colonial Gothic, coming to us from Rogue Games. And then we have all of our playtesters. And one thing I've really liked about different products through the years is when they tell us what the cover art was inspired by. That's kind of cool too. All right. The interior text from the contents all the way through to the last pages of the book are remarkably consistent, using the same design decisions throughout, which makes it kind of a pleasure to read. The color choices don't create problems for those people who experience problems with color, and there are definite considerations made for readers with other problems such as dyslexia, meaning bold text calling out specific concepts in a slightly larger font. Now, we mentioned the book was large, and the last entry in the table of contents begins on page 639. Let's just stop off here with one of my favorite pieces of art in the book. So, Flames of Freedom. Once we turn the page, you'll see that the art style is pretty much consistent throughout, giving us sort of a period feel, but yet not, which is a nice match for the approach that the game wants to take. Inspired by history, not bound by history. And the game opens up in this preamble by being very specific about how the creators and writers see it being played, right? What is your objective as a player? How will you approach play, with one character or many characters? How historical is it? What type of setting is it? What is the role of the game master, which is in this game is called the historian? How are we going to deal with difficult topics? How will we deal with the sins of the past, as it were? How will we view groups of people about whom we may not have received sufficient education, or we may be from a part of a world where we received lots of education, but not about this period of time or this location. Right? How can we ground ourselves in history and make good decisions about how we're going to play this game in a way that's satisfying and enjoyable for all of us? Well, that's what the preamble is all about. Then we get into the basics of gameplay. So if you're familiar with Zweihander, then a lot of what you read here will be familiar, but it has an appearance which is yet one more evolution over the most recent edition of Zweihander. Okay. So as you can see, we have remarkable consistency. These text boxes are not these text boxes, and whenever there is a term that we need to know, such as Fury Dice, it's in bold and it's larger. Easy to find when reading, easy to recognize it's important when reading, and easy to find later when referencing. It's fantastic. Chapter 2, or Article 2, brings us into creating characters. So we begin with what's this game about? What's an effective way to play it? How does the game system work? Making a character. And then getting into the real meat of things. So here is our ribbon, which has now come to light. A nice, thick, heavy-duty ribbon. Right? And nice and wide, which I appreciate. These are all the different character types, backgrounds, occupations. If you're familiar with this style of play, then you'll have a sense of how these are not character classes. They are defining in a way, limiting in other ways. Right? And there are a lot of them. So we're passing page 143, and now we're getting into game system again. Right? So here we are around the middle of the book. Right? And the book is very comfortably just staying open. Isn't that nice? Anyway, by now I'm sure that some of you are screaming at the screen, what about the envelope? well, I guess now it really is time to talk about the envelope. I watched an unboxing a few days ago from a gentleman I know on Twitter as OrcusDorkus, and I'll put a link to his unboxing video in the description. I received an indication that the glue which keeps this envelope sealed is, well, excessive. So I cut mine open. I learned from his experience. And what is inside? Well, book accessories. That's what's inside. Well, as we mentioned and showed before, the dice are a translucent blue, which gives me a feeling of cold, cold waters and ice. And you'll notice that the 6 on the D6s has been replaced by our star and flag icon with this curious projection. We'll get into that a little bit more later. You can see the other faces of the die through the blue, but it's more about the passage of light and that icy look. These are used in the game for Fury dice, which are D6s rolled when, primarily in combat, when we're looking to, because of circumstances, deal extra damage. And they're used in other complicated situations, such as when resolving injury, where they will manifest as chaos dice. In both cases, rolling this star symbol on top, which is the 6, will result in the die exploding. For the percentile dice, the 0 on the 1's D10 has been replaced by a skull. Nothing special has been done for the 10's D10. It has its normal numbers. So, if you are rolling and roll double zeros on the 10's die and roll 0 on the 1's die, you've rolled 100, which, like in many D100-based games, is failure, regardless of how high your skill might be over that 100 marker. All right. That brings us to the coins. The pack of coins are 6 in number, but I just have 2 here, and so we can see both faces at the same time. One face is quite easy to figure out, of course. It's a skull. Quite dramatic. Quite like it. The other one shows us what that star image really is. Of course, it is a star, but there's also a woman's figure holding a weapon and holding aloft a tattered flag in defiance. Right. And what is the star? What is she standing on? It looks like tangled roots, or it could be frozen waves, or it could be flames. Whatever it is very effective in stirring up feeling about the type of defiance that these coins represent, for you can use them to your advantage in specific situations. What exactly do they allow you to do? Well, if you roll your percentile dice and you don't like the result, you could spend a coin to re-roll, although this comes with the caveat that you have to accept the new roll no matter what it is. Or, during combat, you could spend them to gain an action point that you can use immediately. Or finally, it allows a little bit of dramatic editing. It doesn't allow for contradiction of things which have been established in the situation that the characters find themselves in, but it does allow for alteration or complication of those things. Okay, well, that concludes the unboxing of Flames of Freedom, the grim and perilous RPG set in the Revolutionary War period of 1776, flavored via Rogue Games Colonial Gothic with a supernatural twist that has everyone in the area banding together those who are willing and those who believe to fight supernatural forces so that there may be real and lasting freedom for everyone.